All right, so we're now getting to that pointy end of the preseason where we're seeing more and more match simulation. So now I can kind of justify going to training, providing training footage as a separate video, and then the next day post the training report to give you more insight. So that way you get a bit of both. If you want just footage, go watch the footage. I don't talk in it. If you want a recap, then wait for the video the following day to see a full training report. So we'll start with absences and players who finished short in the session. De Goey wasn't present, so I'm hoping he's just recovering from that knee knock that he went to get scanned and got cleared for. McStay had another knee knock as well, ironically, in training and didn't return, but seems like that was just also a corky. We had Harry Di Mattia have quite a heavy collision with Will Parker. He was second best, Hasbolt, and didn't train for the rest of the session. And then we had Reef McInnes, Will Hoskin-Elliott, and Tom Mitchell in the rehab group. So Reef McInnes is actually also recovering from a head knock that he had with Bo McCreary last week. Ash Johnson was he in most of the training? It's hard to remember. I didn't see much of him. But then we also, with Will Hoskin, I'm not too sure what he's doing in the rehab group. He didn't participate in any of the full ground drills. And then Tom Mitchell was doing some straight line running and some stationary kicking. So that's where he's at right now. Mason Cox is back from his personal leave as he went to America. He looked quite good we'll talk about the match simulation in a moment, but as far as what we saw from a team emphasis base, a perspective for the session was a lot of work coming out of D50. So, for example, Billy Frampton or Darcy Moore, they would take an uncontested mark in the goal square, and then one side of the D50 had players, the other side had players. In the other side of the D50, the coach would elect which side would sort of fill out that elected wing, and then the team with the ball was forced to work through one side. So basically just forcing them to work within tight parameters, looking for short kicks to progress the ball. And if that's not possible, then they would go long. But a real emphasis there, as we know, we struggled with that ball movement going outside of our D50 last year, and that wasn't the case in 2022, nor was it in 2023. So that, along with Dan Houston coming into the team, is really important that we do get some sort of return in the season with all this training, moving the ball from a D50. What else did we have? I guess from there, it was a lot of little drills, nothing too serious, and then they transitioned into full ground drills, where it was basically token pressure, working the ball up and back, and then they went into some match simulations. They played 2 quarters, and it was roughly 10-minute quarters, and it was pretty competitive. It was almost as good as an intra-club, although it was only for 20 minutes in 2 segments. What have I got noted here? So Coxie still looks great in the centre bounce ruck contests. His soft touch when he taps the ball to his players is something that he has as a point of difference at Collingwood relative to Darcy Cameron, Ilaru Smith, Oscar Steen. And then he also took some good aerial marks as well. So it's gonna be a bloody difficult decision to make going into opening round as to which tools we take into the side. You've got pinch hitters like Membry, McStay, Billy Frampton who can do a job. Rue's there, Oscar Steen's there, although I don't think they're going to play because they don't offer anything more than being a good ruckman just yet. Whereas Billy Frampton, Membry, McStay, they do other things. So I still think Mason Cox is somehow going to fit into our best 23. How that looks, I don't know. Someone's going to have to eat dirt and miss for the first couple of games at least until Coxie proves that he can't do anything else. DC, dominant, very dominant. I said in my mini match report on Instagram, if you're not on Instagram with me, guys, it's Pies_Footy. It just feels different with DC this year. It feels like he's got everything coming together, and he's got that dominant vibe. Anything he wants, he'll get on the field. That's how it feels. And that reminds me of players like Max Gawn, he could just gets what he wants when he wants, how he wants, right? That's the type of player he is right now. And can we just call it an All-Australian lock already? I know he's got Tristan Sherry to worry about. I know he's got Rowan Marshall to worry about. Max Gawn. Am I forgetting anyone else? Lloyd Meek from Hawthorn, maybe? Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. Look, if Collingwood don't perform well, at the very least, I'll be bloody looking forward to Darcy Cameron strutting his stuff, because he was the most consistent player last year. Great intercepting ruckman, the best intercepting ruckman last year. So I'm looking forward to more of that. Big Illaroo. So after making some comments in the previous training report, thinking he's a smoky for this season, still a smoky, but I did put a concerted effort into watching Big Roo in his ruck drills, in the training drills that he would do with Josh Fraser, Steenie and DC. So what I've taken from Roo is he's elite at ground level. That's very obvious. In stoppage ruck contest right now, he will struggle because he's still kind of undersized and inexperienced. He'll get thrown around by DC. He gets thrown around by Oscar Steen to an extent as well. And when it comes to his marking, or just his hands in general, probably just needs softer hands. He's almost got, we call them brick hands. They're too hard. So when he does try to take a mark, sometimes it does just bounce right off his hands. Concrete hands, they call it. So what will happen there is, as he's training and practicing marking more, his hands will become softer. But there's also an element of, when you start clunking marks in official matches, AFL, VFL, that's when everything just comes together from a marking perspective. Just standing vertical in like deep inside 50, where it's a 1-on-1, which you don't see very often anyways, he's not the strongest, much like the stoppage contest that we talked about in the ruck duels. But if he gets a run at it, that's where he looks his best from a marking capacity. So looking forward to that. I put a lot of time into looking at Oscar Steen as well. He's just a real battler and a good marking person. Sorry, no English today. He's got really good marking capacity when it comes to that 1-on-1 environment. I don't know how he is with the running jump. We'll see that more in the VFL and in intra-club and practice matches. So the jury's still out on Oscar Steen. Just let him do his thing. He missed all of last year, so it will take some time for him to get into it. He's definitely the least fittest out of the three. Watching him in his drills, he's always got his hands up behind his head. He's blowing through his ass, is what I'd say. So still just getting back into AFL standard fitness, I think. What else? Bo was the other person who was a part of that incident last week, who had a head knock with Reef. He was back in full flight. Looked unbelievable with his kicks going inside 50. That's not something we say very often about Bo, and it's probably been a crux in his game. A crutch in his game? Yeah. See, feel free to correct me in the comment section. This is what happens, guys. Sometimes my brain just gets so scattered and I just come up with new words that don't make sense. But that's what it is. Yeah, Bo going inside 50 is looking really good. And if he can tie that in with his elite pressure, he's going to be a problem and could play midfield. Yes, I do believe that as well. Nick Dacos, fully immersed back into the full training program, and man, he's flying, like just running above the ground. His greatest feat, if you haven't noticed already, is his ability to get from one contest to the other. Yes, his foot and is elite and smooth by foot and hand, but his ability to get to one place to the other, when to go, is also another skill that is an intangible. He knows when to hit that next contest. He knows how to pull up to it. He knows the timing behind when he needs to get there. There's a beauty in knowing that when a player ahead of you takes a mark and they're coming off the man on a mark, you've got to know when to run past that player for a handball receive. And Nick Dacos times that perfectly. What else? Josh Dacos, full participation as well after nursing that calf niggle, so he looks good. We had Harry Mahoney, who I made a video on, or partly made a video of him in that VFL segment. He's training with the AFL side, as well as Glover, who was the captain for the Pies last year and was the VFL BNF for the club. He looks really good. Someone told me He doesn't want to play AFL and he's never going to nominate, but then somebody else told me he's nominated for every draft since. Can you guys see me? Let me just... Not blurry, am I? We're good, okay. Yeah, he's been nominated in every draft since he's been in the system, so let me know in the comment section if which part of which is true. But he looks really good. Nice left footer, really trusted with the left foot and trusted with the ball, and also a great intercept marker. Played forward a bit last year in the VFL as well from memory. We had Brady Gray, who's someone who used to play for Freo and has like some sort of Indigenous role at the club. And then Tom McGuan was another one, and Curtis Taylor. Tom McGuan has now finished his stint with the Pies and will go back to school and get into the Coates Talent League. And while he wasn't super imposing at training, it'd be difficult. He's still 17. He was playing high half forward when he was playing the intra-club. And then when they do those match simulation drills before the actual match practice, he's actually on the side with the VFL players doing a bit of running, a bit of stationary ball work. So it's hard to get a gauge on as much as we'd like on Thomas, because there's a lot of drills that he sits out on just because I don't think they want to risk him in those drills. I'm not too sure, but the VFL players step aside for at least 20, 30 minutes of every session and do their own thing. But yeah, good voice. Good voice is important. He's a great runner. Watching him in some of the running drills, he's elite, knows how to work his ass off, which is good, and is a loud voice. You can hear him. He wants the ball, barking orders. That was present at Coates Talent League level, and it's good to see that he's comfortable doing so at AFL level, albeit with a team that he's probably grown up with most of his life, with being his father being a Collingwood legend. Let's go to the next page. A bunch of notes. So this is why I figured it would be reasonable to do a training report, because there's just so much to talk about, right? What else have we got? Curtis Taylor impressed me last week. He's impressed me again this week. If he doesn't get picked up by Collingwood at some point, if he plays the way he trains, he'll get picked up by a club, whether it's Collingwood or the next club. I think it'd be hard done by not to find an AFL club. And you know what happens? You go from a club that struggled for the longest time, and then you go to a club that is successful, drives high standards, perennially drives high standards. You're going to lift a little. And yeah, training in the middle of Richmond, it's just a different vibe, isn't it? That has to play a role, right? What else? McGuan. Harry Perriman seems to be everywhere. He looks like he's really trying to put a stamp on everyone's mind and let them know, hey, like, I'm that guy. I'm going to be everywhere. I want to win every stoppage contest. I want to do everything defensively, and I want to impact the scoreboard if possible. So that's what I got from him. Dan Houston looks good. Just does all the simple things right. Trust him to not turn over the ball. We talked about Bo, and then a note on positions in the little match simulation at the end. We had Sidey roll through the middle at times. Jamie Elliott also rolled through the middle sometimes. He does do that from time to time in pre-seasons. Back when Bucks was the coach, Jamie Elliott played quite a bit of midfield time. It may have been in either 2020 or 2021. He played about 20-30% midfield time each game. So it's not foreign to him. So I assume they just want to keep that midfield load on for him in case he does roll through the middle at some point this year. But that's pretty much all the notes I've got from there. I'm going every Friday, so if you guys want me to focus on anything in the coming weeks, let me know. And let me know if you enjoy the idea behind doing the training footage in one video and then an actual training report moving forward in another video, just because of how much there is to discuss, especially as we start to ramp up match simulation, intra-clubs and practice matches. And if you've made it this far, join the mailing list. I send out a bunch of emails on a weekly basis, whether it's giveaways, events, or just pretty much weekly Pies Footy news. For every video that I make, you'll probably see an email equivalent for that video. So yeah, jump in the mailing list. It's in the description. And until next time, guys, go Pies.